I'm Abhinav, and I thank iGovernment for giving EKO and myself the opportunity to share what we do. It's tough to actually talk after what Gautam's spoken about. And however, let me introduce EKO for a minute and then talk about our experience in some of the infrastructure that a lot of the eminent panelists here are putting in a lot of effort to build, and how are we using it. We started EKO in September of 2007. It's a 5-year-old company, and we are into the space of business correspondence. We work with State Bank of India, we work with ICICI Bank and Yes Bank, and so I'm sure most people here would know, but for others who don't, business correspondent is nothing else but an outsourced bank branch, which can do all financial services outside the premises of a bank branch. And so that was what we understood 5 years back, and we started our journey in trying to create low-cost financial services infrastructure where a lot of underbanked or unbanked people could access financial services and get themselves a lot of financial services, which Gautam mentioned about crossing the road and getting to the 300-400 million people, where they could access products. Just to give you a sense of where the infrastructure in India is, and that's how we compare. In developed countries, we have a bank branch with services close to about 1,000 people. For every bank branch in India, there are close to about 20,000 people who get service. So if you multiply the number of branches, which is about 80,000 into 20,000, it's close to about 1.6 billion people, and that's how crowded our bank branches are. And if so, the need in India just to solve the problem of financial services is to make bank branches 10 times. So it's a question of taking 80,000 bank branches to 8 lakh bank branches. The cost of setting that up would be anyone's guess, could be anything between 8,000 crores to 80,000 crores. And the problem, and that's a great infrastructure that RBI promoted, which was the business correspondent, which was to take 80,000 bank branches and take them to 8 lakh business correspondent outlets where people could get banking services. And the cost of setting up a business correspondent outlet, just the cost of setting up an outlet that EKO does, one-time cost is not more than 5,000 to 8,000 rupees. So if you set up a lot many, it would not cost you more than, let's say, 100 crores or 150 crores. So the difference is about, do I want to, or does the country want to invest in 8 to 80,000 crores, or does it want to invest 100 crores to 150 crores and set up these outlets, where people who are underbanked or unbanked can actually go and get themselves basic financial services. Now, getting to the point of where EKO is, we started EKO in 2007 in Delhi. At this point in time, we are close to about 2,000 outlets and have serviced in excess of 20 lakh customers with various savings and remittance products in Delhi primarily, and in other states as well. So at this point in time, EKO is present in about 11 states and about 19 cities and towns. Now that's the disparity of the present infrastructure versus the infrastructure that practitioners like me, EKO, my company, and others are trying to build. It's absolutely an elephant in the room, and it's no trivial task to solve this problem. Talking further about the infrastructure that's currently been built, and Rajesh talked about 30 crore people who have got enrolled in UID. It's a great infrastructure. It's a great initiative again by the government. And let me take you through how a practitioner like EKO or any business correspondent would use an infrastructure like UID. Imagine, for example, in case of EKO, imagine a pharmacy outlet in Uttam Nagar. And you could actually, so the service which is available is a customer who does not have a bank account could actually walk into this pharmacy outlet, give his ID proof and address proof, and walk out with a State Bank of India bank account. Now the challenge is, which is rightly mentioned by Rajesh, is that how does that rickshawala who walks into a pharmacy outlet bring in an ID proof and an address proof which is not there? And then let's say if it's there, how does that piece of document gets digitized and gets to State Bank of India and a bank account gets opened? So that's a reasonable amount of task to be done to cover 300, 400 people for banking services. And that's where UID helps a lot. So let's say the rickshawala walks in and says, this is my 12-digit UID number, and with the blink of an eye, if an organization like EKO could give a bank account, it would be brilliant for that individual. And So while business correspondents are there, while UID is there, and there is infrastructure, getting again to Gautam's point, the integrations aren't very smooth at this point in time. And I guess each one of us is working extremely hard because we are passionate about the space that we are in, and we are excited about the fact that there are a billion mobile phones and this UID infrastructure which could just change the state at which India works or financial inclusion of financial services are dealt with. So there's a lot of effort in putting that together. But wanting to make the point that UID is a great infrastructure, it could help in online real-time KYC integrations and getting yourself a bank account, which probably you and I don't experience at this point in time. That's one part. The next part that that EKO leverages is that, like I mentioned, we in EKO, in order to build this low-cost financial services infrastructure, there were two things that EKO wanted to leverage a lot in India, especially. And there are two things in my mind are carry the adjective of being ubiquitous in India. One is retail outlets. It's everywhere. It's in Delhi. It's in Bombay. It's in cities. It's in towns. It's everywhere. The other one was mobile phones. And so in order to deliver the financial services, EKO chooses a retail outlet as one part of the equation, and the other is that we leverage the fact there's a mobile phone in the hands of almost every individual that one needs to and wants to service. The other challenge when we got to mobile phones was that there's a plethora of mobile devices and there are 13 mobile network operators. How does one get through the maze around this? And it was a interesting challenge to solve. Where a customer, a rickshawala walking into a retail outlet, the retailer does not ask him, are you a Vodafone customer? Are you an Idea customer? Do you have an LG? Do you have a Nokia or what? And so EKO then we've come out with a low-cost authentication device, a low-cost authentication paper-based device, which actually helps in doing financial services transactions across all mobile phone devices, across all network providers. And we don't ask these questions whether you're a Vodafone or an Idea, whether you're LG or a Samsung. And we just process financial services transactions. And it's done over a mechanism called USSD. And each one of us would be familiar with that because if you do a *123#, it gives you your balance. That syntax of *123#, that technology is called USSD. It's compatible with all phones and all mobile network operators. So with the combination of retail outlets and mobile phone is what EKO thought that we could build this low-cost infrastructure and take banking to the unbanked or underbanked people. Now, like I mentioned, there was a challenge around KYC and UID smooth integration. There are challenges around mobile phone as well. One of the things that I would like to highlight here is that there is this overlap between organizations, government, non-government, private, who are infrastructure providers, and those departments or infrastructures can also become service providers. And let me give you an example. For example, UID creating a payment infrastructure. It's great. The thought's great. However, it needs, from a practitioner standpoint, we also desire some of these infrastructure to be open to allow practitioners like us to innovate outside the infrastructure that they provide. Let me give you another example. For example, Airtel and Airtel Money. Airtel or any mobile network operator will have its great mobile infrastructure which practitioners like us would want to leverage. And Airtel Money, which is a competition for EKO. It's great to have competition. It's a question about how these private public infrastructures are also able to distinguish their role as infrastructure providers and service providers. It's very, very, very important for us to succeed in this mission to provide financial services for a large number of Indians. Lastly, the other challenge that I would also want to point out is that we work with banks. So like I mentioned, we work with State Bank of India, we work with ICICI Bank, we work with Yes Bank. And interestingly, what has happened is that all regulations that have come across in this space from 2007 to 2009 have all been progressive in nature, which is great. However, there's been a lot of slow progress in ensuring that the banks, us as practitioners, the technology actually catches up with the kind of regulations that have come in. And one thing that I would want to point out is that when actually EKO started to build this business correspondent low-cost infrastructure, we went ahead and acquired customers and got themselves to have a bank account with State Bank of India. And the technology infrastructure at that point in time, which was extended by the bank, was in a manner that the customers that EKO acquired for the bank could not transact with 20 million or 200 million customers of State Bank of India, which already existed in the past. So it was an island of customers who could not transact with a lot of the existing banking infrastructure. And over the next 3 years, it took banks to actually integrate and make sure that the customers that EKO or any other business correspondent acquires is able to transact with other set of bank customers. So for example, if my driver went ahead and got himself a bank account from EKO, and if I wanted to pay him salary, I couldn't do it. I still had to actually take out cash from an ATM and give him cash. It was still not there. And so it's one step at a time. So at least that bit of a challenge is a little bit solved for some of the banks. So the point that I would want to make on the bank side is that it's extremely important that the manner in which the business correspondent or any channel, any additional banking channel of the bank is extended to the people, it needs to be built as if it's their own channel. It's got to be built in an interoperable manner. It's got to be built in a manner where, let's say, if there is a State Bank of India or an ICICI outlet where the rickshawalas or my maid or my driver could go, why can't I go? I should have access to that outlet as well. And so should they have the access to the channel that we have. And that's all. It's therefore, so the point that I would want to highlight here is therefore very important for us to create an infrastructure which is holistic, which is well integrated. Otherwise, it will get a lot more difficult to solve the challenges of creating a very holistic payment infrastructure. So the last thing that I would want to highlight here is that for anybody who wishes to understand financial services and the business correspondence space easy, the manner in which we kind of see is that imagine a bank creating bank branches. There is an orbit of ATMs around it, which helps to take customers and transactions out of the bank branches to an ATM. Now imagine another orbit which is further away from the ATMs, of human ATMs, which we call business correspondent, which can reach a lot more people. And I guess this is a great infrastructure, a great policy which the government has come out, and there are a lot of things that each one of us is trying to do. It's important for all of us to actually be able to put this together, otherwise it's going to be a big challenge to solve in years to come. Thanks a lot.